Welcome to Her Drive and to another soul nourishing episode in our special Healer series. This collection of conversations honors women walking the path of healing in all its forms, whether through body, energy, art, earth, story, spirit, or science. These are the women who have said yes to the sacred work of holding space, transmuting pain, and guiding others towards wholeness. I'm your host, Cynthia Crumblett, intimacy coach, energy alchemist, and lifelong student of transformation. Through this series, I invite you into the wisdom of women whose lives are medicine, rooted in authenticity and expressed through their unique ways of healing and serving. Today, I'm joined by Karen Blaine, an intuitive empath, certified hypnotherapist, and author of 6 books, and with the seventh on the way. One of the most impactful of those books being The Illusion of Perfect. Karen's work centers around helping us remember the power of passion, gratitude, and connection as tools for transformation. Her writing and teachings guide us towards resilience, self-love, and the comforting realization that even in our struggles, we are never truly alone. Without further ado, hello, Karen Blaine. Welcome to Her Drive.
Oh, Cynthia, how are you doing?
I'm doing splendidly, thank you.
Good. That's okay.
Yeah,
I love
California
your
is sunny
introduction. Thank you
today.
for that.
Oh, yeah, of course. And well, it's an honor to have you here today. And first and foremost, would love to dive into what is
What
an
is
intuitive
it?
empath.
Okay, well, it took me a long time to realize that I was an intuitive empath because it's not something you say at 5 years old, oh, I'm an intuitive empath. But what I did hear was you're too sensitive. You've got to toughen up. You are different than everybody else. There were so many negative things that I just pushed it down and pushed it down and pushed it down so I could be like everyone else. And so it wasn't until about 11 years ago that I said, I'm going to start to figure out how to own what I feel every day, what I sense every day. So I started to really read. I started to really talk to teachers and learn. And the more I learned, the more I said, I don't care. I don't care if I put myself out there now completely with my books and also on my posts every day. I have posts every other day, and I talk about these kinds of things, and I'm owning who I am. Being an empath is honestly really feeling another person. Say you're in a grocery and you're in line, you can actually feel the aura, and you might be able to too, an energy. I bet you can, of the other people that are behind you in the line. And you're just like, oh gosh, they're really upset. Maybe they're going through a divorce or something like that. It starts to come through me where it's being an intuitive empath. It's not like when you're past. It's just more like every time I go somewhere, I feel the aura and the energy of others. I
Yeah,
intuit it.
yeah, yeah.
But
And I asked that question one. I always love to hear what everyone's definitions are of how they title themselves, right? And that makes
great.
perfect sense to me. And some people, I feel like now, rather than saying that they're psychic in some ways, they say that they're an empath. And I believe there's all different types of psychic or intuitive ability. So it sounds like yours is very sensory experience.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's so interesting to me to
It goes
hear
to
that.
the heart though too. So
What's that?
it can go to my heart.
Oh, I
So
would love to know.
I can get very sad if I meet even a stranger, a sad person, and they seem sad, I'll get sad.
I see. And whenever you were realizing in the last 10 years or so that you are an intuitive empath, was there a defining moment where you're like, oh, this is why I've been feeling so many different emotions and been so sensitive my entire life?
Yeah, when my dad passed,
Mm,
started me on this journey. I my kids were raised, they were gone, and that was also that empty nest syndrome because I had them early too. And then my dad passed, and I was really devastated. And so I always have journaled since I was like 5 years old. I journaled. And so then I started to write a book called Subconsciously Speaking. That was my first one. And I went to school and became a hypnotherapist. And what happened was I started to turn it into a book because I felt to myself, first off, I do what's called conversational hypnotherapy. So it
Mm,
wouldn't scare anybody. There's no need for me to do that. And what we do is it's kind of a deep, deep form of meditation where you go into a dark room and you lay in a comfortable place. And I just give you affirmations about what you want. We talk first for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then I spend 10 minutes with the in that environment where you can be so relaxed. Candles, everything. And then you're sort of ready to go into a deeper state. And then that's when I give some information affirmations to go. And I feel like it works really well. But everyone remembers, but I think it goes deeper. I also want them to do affirmations at home all the time too, especially if they're feeling bad about themselves.
sure. So, kind of moving back to your story, what was the allurement to hypnosis?
Well, I felt like I did when my dad was dying, he died of cancer. And so I started doing visualization with him. Like I knew he couldn't even move, like he was at that point and it stuck to this chair. So I was trying to make him remember places he loved. And I went into visualization. Then I went into hypnosis, saying it's with him, not even realizing it. And so I would talk really softly and talk about he loves Yosemite. So we would talk about going to Yosemite and the things we did and where we stayed and where we walked and the beauty of the waterfalls, just all of it. And what happened was when he did pass, I said, "Oh, I know what I want to do. I know what I have to do." And it was hypnotherapy at that time. I'm retired now from that.
Yeah, how intriguing. So it seems like the death portal for your
Yes,
father was also a sort of rebirth portal for you.
absolutely.
Mm, yeah. For those who are tuning into this and maybe going through their own portal of rebirth, death and rebirth, do you have any words of wisdom for them in that experience?
Yes, I think that one important thing to do is realize, in my opinion, that the cycle of life continues. I absolutely believe that there is life after death. And I think even if it's electricity, even if it's electrons, whatever it chooses to be, I believe in a higher power. That's all as far as I'll go with it. But I think in some way or form, I will hear from my dad again. And so I think anyone else going through this, I think you will hear from your loved one again at some point.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's kind of my own anecdotal experience has been
Tell me.
there's a lot of different energies, beings, whether they were in human form or not, that are very reachable. And
Mhm.
when we feel open and ready to engage with them. And I love that you touched on it being potentially electrical, right? Uh, there's so many beautiful studies showing what the mystics have been talking about for a very long time, and many folks who are intuitives, empaths, in that spectrum of ESP, right?
Mhm.
That tested it. And I think just a few days ago, I haven't listened to the podcast yet, but Dr. Tara Stewart, who's pretty well known in the science community for her research, is talking about basically what we're discussing now, and how you can communicate with your loved ones beyond their living form, their organic matter form. So I'm looking forward to continuing to witness the scientific community talking about these things. Even Andrew Huberman had mentioned, like he Yeah, it gets downloads too. So there's plenty that is occurring and going on. And like you, I went on a journey of not realizing that I had abilities, just thought they were normal, and putting my backpack on of everybody else's burdens and emotions and things like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
to release it for them. Um, and it was a great and powerful awakening to come to the realization of what these things are, so that we can step higher into our purpose, into a more healed body, mind, soul. And I'm curious how your experience shifted after going through, or while going through, this portal with your father's death and your rebirth.
Well, what I once I started to really write the book, it took me that one took me the longest actually. It took about a year, and I spent a lot of time going through going through the pain as I wrote it. And this is a really strange story. You want to hear one?
Mm.
Um, we live kind of in the country, not really in the country, but we have a lot of animals. We have a lot of coyotes and stuff like that, but we also have a lot of deer. And one time I got up and I went outside, and there was a pregnant deer that was had been gotten by something, maybe a mountain lion, I don't know, but it was not here anymore. And I remember just saying to myself immediately, the cycle of life. It's just, I have to accept it all. It's part of growth.
Yeah.
And my whole goal for me is when that my children, my husband, that they all understand that it's going to be okay, and they can reach us, and it's not the end. And,
Yeah.
what about you? Are you an intuitive empath?
Um, I'm, yes, definitely. I don't know how to fully define myself. I don't think about it so much in the. I have thought about it a lot. I just have a lot of abilities through, yes, 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 channeling, light codes, deep, powerful energy work that I didn't even realize was a part of me. So it's been a powerful couple of years realizing
And
what things
I
are.
don't mind to keep asking you questions, but what started you? I'm so curious.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I want to keep. I keep turning the show. I want to turn the
Okay,
show to you.
okay, all right.
But thank you. I don't mind having a conversation. Well, I think what happened was, initially I heard this. I was always drawn to psychics and people who are intuitive and in that more like mystical realm, and I never really understood why, other than I just thought it was fascinating. And um, and then it took basically a car accident. It wasn't like near fatal or anything, but a pretty traumatizing, emotionally traumatizing car accident. And through that experience, I was supposed to see a woman who I'd met a year before. I met her. I interviewed her on my show, Her Drive, that you're on now. And when I was interviewing her, I knew that she was meant to be my teacher. So, but I couldn't ask her. There was something inside of me that said I needed her to invite me in to be to work with her, which is not like me, but anyway. So fast forward a year later, it's a day she and I are supposed to meet up. I'm on a road trip in her community, and I get hit, and my car's totaled. I'm physically a little banged up, emotionally really distressed, and she invites me to her home to give me a healing.
Wow.
And in that, it became this beautiful, I've never felt so safe, seen, protected, and all these different words and things she was doing and saying, and I was seeing all the different energies, and just feeling and sensing so much. So after that, I worked with her for every 2 weeks for a year.
Wow.
And then over a year, actually. Anyway, so it was in that process of thinking I just need deep healing. I'm being badly abused by someone I love very much. I'm in this cycle that I can't seem to get myself out of. Help, and I kept praying and crying out to God, and God would try to help me, and I knew I would try to leave. Anyway, that was the beginning. And while I was trying to fix myself from this traumatic relationship that I had engaged in, I ended up realizing very quickly that giftings were coming online. And what I realized is that they weren't just online, but these were things I've been doing my entire life. I just wasn't aware of what they were. So she was helping me create languaging around it. And then as I understood some of that languaging, then more and more and more abilities started to come through. And like the speaking of light codes and channeling and talking with some of the masters. I never was looking for this type of thing ever. Wasn't sure if it was real. Um, and sometimes I question my insanity, but well, less and less now because it just feels right, and everything that I do in alignment with what I'm directed from and the divine purpose from whether it's spirit guides or just an intuitive drop. Um, is making my life better and better and better. And before we got on our call, I started getting Karen all these like really powerful flows and downloads of energy into my body. And I kept thinking about you. I'm like, oh, I was like, I feel like I'm connecting into her stream, and it's a beautiful feeling. So when you talk about connecting with others and feeling their energy, one of the most powerful things that I've learned in the last couple of years is to actually pause when an energy comes in that's like you're in a certain state and then all of a sudden you feel differently all of a sudden, and ask the question like, is this mine? And it's not necessarily just a negative energy to sometimes it's like a really potent sexual energy that flows into me and I'm like, ooh, this cannot be mine, I didn't generate this, right? So I think that's for us sensitive people,
Mhm.
it's that's what's going on. We're picking up other people's energies. We're antennas, right? And if we're not teaching children this, then they have to go through the whole process of like you and I later in our lives to figure out what's going on. So it was a very long-winded answer. So thank you for the audience.
Absolutely. I think it was a great. I wanted to really know. I felt that also. So I just thought, I just need to know. I need to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, I understand. Like connects with like, and we do want these confirmations. So I do feel that sisterhood in you. Um, yeah. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Of course, of course. So, um, I am curious with your connection, your abilities, and things like that. What are some ways when that you have and you've mentioned hypnotherapy, but how do you discharge the energy that's like coming in? Like you mentioned, I'm standing in the grocery store and all of a
Mhm.
sudden I feel other people's energy. How do you work with that? And are there ways that those who are listening, they can kind of tap into this if they think that they have some empathic abilities?
So it's yes, very, very good question. Because I'll go with maybe a party. You want me to take a party, or do you want me to take grocery? Okay, where you're
Party
at
sounds
a party, and you know you really can't leave because it's maybe family and friends, and you have to be there.
yeah.
But you start to feel all the energy, and some of the people you may not particularly love, and but that's okay. But as you're starting to get overwhelmed, that's what we're good at. We can do that fairly easily. I say you put yourself in another area, a room, an area, a bathroom, even for a few minutes as you go into reframing the whole story. So you start from the moment that you get into the party and you say, what is bothering? And then you go, nothing. This is not real. You try to test yourself. And then you say, it's what's interesting is the old ancient philosophers, did that. They analyzed, Stoicism did that, where it was like reframing everything. What does this mean to me? What does this do for me? And as you're reframing it and you're answering your own questions in your own mind, you can look at it differently. You can say, all right, now I just need a moment of peace. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to calm down. All's going to be well. and I can go. And I can leave whenever I want. If it's too much, I can leave. I have that power. And then I'm good. I'll go back out to the party and I'm in a much better frame of mind. It may only take 5 or 10 minutes. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful response. I do find it sometimes overwhelming in some places and spaces, and taking that pause, that moment of privacy. And I've never thought about reframing it, and that's a really great practice to yeah change your brain waves, right, and your electrical current. So amazing. And I imagine when you come out more refreshed
Yes,
and energized, it probably changes the state of people in the room.
I think so.
Hmm.
And people seem happier. So at least
Yeah.
maybe my mind and my heart are feeling happier. So maybe I think they're happier.
Yeah. Isn't it so funny when we think about what reality is, and our various lenses of reality?
Yes.
And how, if we're looking through the world with a particular lens, it's going to appear in whatever our lens is. Yeah.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
does.
And for those who have never underwent a hypnotherapy experience, I know you described your process, but some people are afraid of it. How can they be less afraid of going if they're curious about working with a hypnotherapist, and then satiate that fear or calm it, just so that they can go and have what can be a really profound experience?
Right. I understand a lot of people are afraid of it. So I think that what they should do is um, maybe start with someone. There are people who've got their degree, their certificate of practice in what called conversational therapy, hypnotherapy, where you don't get completely put under. So you remember everything. You're just in this beautiful state, like you were just talking about, that peaceful state, and you turn and you get happy, and then you relax, and then you get help. I like that so much better myself because I also don't really like to be not remember what I went into hypnotherapy for. So I'm the last one to say go and get put completely under on hypnotherapy. I don't myself.
It's beautiful. It's interesting to note that there's so many different types of hypnotherapy, just like there's different styles and formulas for counseling or really anything else in the healing world. And I'm curious what you would define as like a healership role.
I would define helping people to see their authenticity. That's the big one. That is the big one. And I heard that you mentioned that it's major on your show and for you because so many people get so caught up in the world that they put on a mask, they put on a face, they change who they are. And if you can stay authentic, and congruence helps with that. When your mind and your heart are in the same place, then you can be authentic. So you have to remember that to try to do that, to try to keep them both together, not in separate forms, not intellectually thinking something and have your heart thinking something else, and not trying to prove anything to anybody, just being authentic.
Sure. And it's so easily said, right? And
Uh,
once you get there, it feels easeful to be in that state of like the heart, the head, soul connected and in congruence. But for many, it is so rocky to get there because we've been hypnotized in some ways by other people, our society, different
right,
pressures or traumas have
right.
reset our system. So I'm curious, what is your suggestion for people who are looking to step into their authenticity, have the bravery, the audacity to speak their truth, and align their heart and their head?
well, okay. This is the only thing I'll say about my books, I promise. And you are not alone. In the book, You Are Not Alone. That's the one where I talk about people who are like me and never felt accepted by the rest of the world growing up and never had any help. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have somebody who could show me that everything was okay. That's why I didn't go there. Finally, I did. And what I learned is, for starters, the more basic things are what you already know probably, but the affirmations all the time. I am worthy. I am beautiful. I love and accept myself. And you just say it all the time, because the more you say that, the more you can tune into your authenticity. Also, to do mantras, go back to mantras, and then as you meditate and you do your mantras, you pick one. I pick an American one, but other people pick Bijan mantras. So, and but I will say something like, I love myself. And, and I want to say that. And I will then, sit in the form of a meditation pose and do that. And then another one, big one, is mindfulness. And that's really important, because the more we're mindfulness, even take a week, and we're mindful of what we eat. We're mindful of who we do speak to. We're mindful of where we walk and everything around us. We're very aware. Then it helps us to get past those, it's almost fear of breaking from society's patterns and getting to our authentic, ability, which is so critical to being happy. And that's all I'm really taught. That's all I really want for people, is to be happy, the bottom line, and loved.
Yeah, yeah, happy and loved. Sign me up. I feel yeah, I feel very happy and loved, and love that you talk about the awarenesses that being mindful can bring, right? So if you're paying attention to what you're eating, what you're consuming, who you're engaging with, what you're thinking, where you're walking, what you're doing with your own body, or what your own thoughts are telling you. Once you start to map those things and track them and see where you're at, it's a really good barometer for where you're at within your happiness and in your joy. And I think if we can pay attention to those patterns, we can see where there might be a little hitch or maybe a big hill or a mountain within the system that we can work with to unlock and release and come into this more
Yeah,
like zen state.
which is so
And
important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and your self-worth, and as your self-worth comes alive, passion comes alive, and as we can step into our passions, I think we can have so much more meaning in life.
Oh, yes. And meaning and purpose are what drive happiness, and gratitude, right?
Yeah,
Most important ones is, if you can say, while you're being mindful, even, that you have gratitude in your soul, and really think about it all the time, because as long as we're breathing, as long I figured it out. I mean, for me, but I hope others can figure it out. As long as I wake up and I'm breathing, I'm going to be grateful. I'm going to be grateful that those I love are healthy, and that I'm healthy. And I know the news is bad. I know a lot of things around us are not good, but I don't listen to that. And maybe that's wrong, but I don't want to get myself into that space. So I stick with gratitude. And
yeah.
also, what you just said, meaning and purpose and passions. That's all in that book. So
Yeah. Well, I would love to actually talk about your books. These are, beautiful birthings of yours, and this is a platform to share your
you're
amazing
amazing.
accomplishments and works that can help guide others. So, I would love to
Love
kind
to
of like
chat
dive
with
into what was the first book that you wrote. I know you touched on it earlier, but how that was critical in not just sharing what was inside of you, but also how it's been received by others. And then we'll kind of just move through the books that you feel like sharing and talking about with us.
Sure. So what you were talking about, it goes with that, the energy. It was as if one night I felt everything open up. Maybe it was my head chakra in my head, and it just opened, and the creativity poured in. And at 3 a.m., I started to write every single night at 3 a.m. all the time. It was like same time. Okay, I'm gonna write, and it was very interesting. And then I so far it hasn't stopped. I didn't think I the seventh book at all. I thought, okay, I'm done. But then it happened again. And who am I to tell myself to stop writing? So, yeah, it's just amazing. But I feel like it's beyond me. And that may sound very interesting, but it just comes through me.
Hmm.
And so
When
for
I,
each book, I can tell you, but I'll start with who are you? Because I want to get through them fast. I don't want to waste, too much time. Who are you is about all the Carl Jung definitions of like personality typing. Also, things like the MBTI, Myers-Briggs. And so you get a little idea of who are you? Like I'm an introvert and I should have always known I was an introvert. Shy. So, but you can get an idea. Are you an extrovert? Are you, and that's good too. And you can be just as, deep and empathic as me, as an extrovert. But also, then you also find out, do you care about the world at large or do you care more about your day to day? And so it goes through all that. And that I'll go through that. After that, I bring up the enneagrams. I don't know if you know the enneagrams, but so those are different ones. And then after that, I bring up astrology because actually I do believe in it. It helped my relationship with my husband because he's such an extrovert and he's so opposite of me. And I was like, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to work according to Myers Briggs, Carl Jung, everybody. And so I went to a bookstore and read a book, and he's a double Scorpio when I did his chart. And I'm like, oh, and my moon was in Scorpio, which means there's a connection. There's a connection there, big one, where we were both pretty intense, and that's how come we both were able to get along for a long time because we didn't we didn't belittle each other for our intensity. We just accepted it, and it was nice. It was great for me because I didn't find that too often. So it really was nice. I mean, he's much more extroverted, but that's fine. We accept each other for our differences, and it's fine. It's actually better because he might pull me out of a introverted phase and too much. And then after that, it goes into things like destiny versus free will. And I'm pretty much a destiny believer. So other people aren't. Some people are 50-50. And it goes into being an empath, being highly sensitive, and a narcissist. So it discusses a lot of things. And that book's called Who Are You? I'll go really quick. The next book's called Dreamscape. And it talks about the top 25 dreams that are most common. And it does the subconscious of what they mean in the subconscious. Then it goes to the conscious and what they mean from a conscious level, and then does an overview, a put together of the conscious and subconscious, and comes up with a full idea of what that dream might mean or should mean. And then after that, I did You Are Not Alone. And that's my most personal book. I had a lot to do with it. I mean, I felt a lot when I was doing it, I should say. And I I started to cry a couple times when I was writing it, but as it goes on, I did get through it. The first four chapters are about loving yourself and having that self love and self worth, and really believing in yourself and saying it a lot and trusting yourself to make the right call. But then it goes into why we might act the way we do. So it goes into childhood traumas, just a little, goes into bullying, which is a really big one. And then it goes into the choices we make because the friends we hang out with kind of determine the rest of the path in our lives. So that fork in the road we can take if if we want to take a lot of times the road that gives us the best life, they could both be the best. But you pick one you think might make you healthier, and what you do with that is you hopefully make the right choice. But then after that, we come out of it. And that's when I go into passions, into gratitude. So, and then I end with positivity. So, and then after you are not alone is up in the air. And that's when I get into philosophy and stoicism and psychology and all kinds of other things, earth grounding. I'm sure you know about that and how to center. The whole thing's about centering yourself. And it really talks about ways to do that because for us and for other people who are like us, centering ourselves is essential. So I that book's out. And I'll finish with the last one I did, and that's called The Illusion of Perfection. And so many women, especially, are are taught to be perfectionists, and if everything's not perfect then something's wrong. And so it makes a fallacy of that. It says, and it goes into reasons not to wear that mask, the reasons why we can just be authentic in ourselves. And the entire book talks about how it can lead to physical exhaustion and how we have to get ourselves into a better place emotionally, psychologically, and it also ends. Every book I have ends with a lot of positivity. So, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to talk about the most recent one. I mean, all of them, first and foremost, sound amazing, wonderful, and I can see the total nutrients in each one. They make perfect sense in the path of expanding, and almost reading them chronologically would make a lot of sense to me. But this most recent book, The Illusion of Perfection, is fascinating to me, and I'm curious, where do you think that illusion comes from?
Exterior mostly, or maybe our parents, or maybe our just environment we grow up in, where everyone expects perfection. So we everything needs to be perfect, and that can actually lead to OCD, where you got have everything has to be clean, everything has to be right, and it can absolutely. Oh, and I also wrote the book because I'll tell you why I wrote the book. I had my best friend committed suicide, and it was very traumatic. And people would say, "But she had everything. She had everything. She was uber wealthy. She was beautiful. She was intelligent." And they're like, "So why would she do that?" Then I had another friend who's famous, and he did the same thing. And everyone's like, "Well, he's famous, he's this, he's that." And so I wrote the book for them and for people like them, for people who say the external makes you happy. It's the opposite. It's the internal that truly makes you happy. So I spent the whole book trying to explain. And in the very beginning, I said, you might think at this moment that fame or beauty or money will make you happy, but by the end of this book, you will never again feel that way. And mostly we talk about why it's so important to love ourselves as we are.
Yeah, wow. Well, I appreciate that very tender share and the loving heart that you have to write such a book for your beloved friends. And it is so common for us to assume, us being society, to assume that people who have all the external desirable things would not have many cares in the world. But it's shocking how often it's the exact opposite. I spent a lot of time in areas of affluence, and it's intriguing to see that everyone is human, right? You never know who is filled with joy and love or who's in deep pits of sadness, right? I mean, I'm not saying you never know, but snapshot, it's hard to tell. So for those who are listening and tuning in and realizing, oh my goodness, I've got a perfectionist bone in me, what are some ways that they can start to dismantle the intensity of that energy of everything needing to be perfect, or something's wrong, I'm not safe, I'm not good enough, someone will think whatever they think about me.
And that, I hate to repeat myself, goes back to the authenticity that you talked about. So what it really does is, and once you feel really authentic and love yourself unconditionally, and love the others in your life unconditionally, and know that there are a few people, just a few people in your life that love you back, then you don't need to be perfect. You finally say to yourself, it's okay. I don't need that perfection. I don't want it. I don't want it. And you sort of say, let me give you a little example. I asked my daughter, I raised all four of my kids very inside. I was a very internal mother. Every week I would ask them, with my husband, who's right here, I would ask them, how do you feel about your week? How do you feel about school? Were you sad? Were you happy? Tell me about what you went through. Mostly because for me, that internal was always important. I never connected it, but it was always about the insides. I thought if I could make them have self worth and self love, their choices and everything will be so much better. And if I can keep that sadness away by talking about it and knowing they're fine just as they are. Oh, I'm going to cry right now. But it was so important to me. And they are good. And my daughter said to me, I said to her, do you feel like I mean, giving you my new book. Do you feel like you have to be perfect? She goes, no, not at all. She goes, I don't have to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect. And I started laughing because I really thought maybe, just maybe, she learned something through all those like lessons I gave her about being yourself, just being yourself and being proud of who you are. No one's perfect. We're human, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it was so beautiful to have raised your children in a mindful environment and consciously wanting to instill in them a sense of self worth and value of authenticity. So I love that very much. And you alluded to there's a new book in the pipeline. Would love to, if you care to share at all, would love to hear a little bit more about that. If not, we can just leave it as a stay
We'll
tuned.
do it next time. How about that? When it's all
Perfect. That's
edited and we'll
perfect.
come together again. Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Amazing. Well, Karen, before you go, I would love to know if you could travel back in time and give a younger you some words of wisdom, to what age would you go and what would you say?
I go to 5 years old, and I would say, you're okay. Even at 5, I felt different and alone. And like the world was so mean and cruel. And I seemed to attract bullies and I never knew why. And my own family would tell me, toughen up, toughen up, toughen up. And that would be their only answer. It's like, you have to not be the way you are. And that was like telling me I'm not good enough. And so I would take myself so sorry, I'm making a long answer here. I would take myself back to 5 and I would teach myself everything I know now.
Yeah. Yeah. What an interesting journey your soul wanted to come on in this lifetime, and go through that gauntlet of not feeling safe or good enough, being perfectly made as you came into this incarnation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. My pleasure. Well, Karen, I would love for everyone to know where they can find you and stay in connection with your work.
So everything's under Karen Blaine, even though my website says eternalempath.com, where you can buy my books there, but Amazon has them all. I'll say all in a row, all the books. And you can either buy it in paperback or ebook. And I told you I'm doing some audiobooks too that'll be coming out soon.
Amazing. Yeah. So many of us really love hearing the audiobooks as well. or having that as an option. So I love it. It was so wonderful and magical to connect with another light being. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for being a beacon of healing and light and just an expanded viewpoint for so many of us. Deeply appreciate you, Karen.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
And thanks to everyone who tuned in to this episode of Her Drive. I encourage you to check out the show notes to directly connect with Karen. As well, invite you to leave a review. This helps others know that their valuable time, same as yours, is worth being spent tuning into this episode and those like it here on the Her Drive show. And if you feel called to pass this along to another beautiful soul so that they can be touched by Karen's light, I encourage you to do so. Until next time.